left religion, Christianity, and fundamentalism, I realized that churches teach their members to react with fear or disdain towards secular beliefs and systems. If you've ever grown up or spent a lot of time in religious circles, you'll notice how there's always an us versus them mentality. Not in every church. I mean, there are progressive churches out there who just don't care what tradition or what the patriarchy says about anything, which I thought was very great. I mean, it's definitely something that's becoming more prevalent, but it's not mainstream. When you think of Christianity, you don't think of anything really besides, MAGA, fundamentalism, and if you're lucky, some of the more traditional, long-standing, hetero-pushing groups. And I always say that what's important to a group is going to come out. It's going to become something extremely big because they can't help themselves. They can't not insist upon themselves. I grew up in Christianity, and for 30 plus years, I was programmed to believe that any belief, any ideology, any kind of input that wasn't grounded in Jesus or the Bible was satanic. And yeah, there are belief systems out there that have nothing to do with Christianity. But Christianity will think nothing of indoctrinating you. But the second that somebody else tries to indoctrinate you with anything from Islam to Wicca, there's a problem. But there's not a problem if they do the same thing with Christianity. I think it's really sad that it's never revealed mainstream how churches isolate their own members. I've taken classes to learn about abusive, toxic relationships. Any institution or relationship that isolates you from other ideas, thoughts, feelings, and people is inherently unhealthy. I was told my entire life that if a book, a movie, a magazine does not adhere to certain very explicit, very narrow-minded view, being Christian wasn't good enough. You had to have, within that Christianity, you had to have a specific, very articulate opinion about everything, which changed every 5 years, according to my mother. And that's why they have the us versus them mentality. If you're not helping to push their version of Christianity more mainstream, with more influence, more members, you're the enemy. As long as people aren't hurting each other and they're not indoctrinating kids, I don't care what you believe. As long as it does not impact people's rights and privileges, and that people are shown the respect they deserve, I do not care what you believe. I really don't. Why would I? I mean, you almost never hear me say that certain groups of people are bad, because if you're not a mainstream world religion, you're not causing most of the problems. You're just not. That's just not how society works. Society works on the idea that one truth is right, and anything that gives you critical thinking, challenges your long-held belief, is seen as something terrible. When actually, anything that challenges how you believe, how you feel, how you think, inherently a good thing. I mean, I'm sure there's a way that it wouldn't be. But, I mean, I grew up in all of that. And it's so tragic. It really is tragic. And the idea that you're supposed to be afraid, have disdain against people who have different beliefs is so unnatural. But it's pretty on key with what most groups of people do. I mean, there's a reason why white people historically and consistently fear black people. Because black people are viewed as a threat, even though they're not a threat. Not really. That's why certain groups in America are targeted. Trans people, Jews, Palestinians, I mean, women. They're targeted because they're viewed as a threat. Because some of the most controversial anti-Christian ideologies have come about in order to liberate these groups of people. Black Lives Matter is very controversial to Christian. Feminism of all shapes and sizes, very controversial. Because anything that shakes the patriarchal white man's privilege is seen as something that is dangerous. When, in my opinion, one of the only dangerous things, consistently, is white man's privilege, period. Religion has always stood by to support rampant sexism. Rampant. The church has done very little for women's rights. I do not remember there ever being a female pope. I've never seen any non-hetero pope in the history of the world. You can call yourself progressive all you want, but until women make up at least 50% of all positions of power, and it's a consistent thing, religion thrives on inequality, fear, disdain, us versus them, a persecution complex. Any group of people, secular or religious, that makes you afraid of a group of people due to their differences in theology is an awful, awful institution. And it's very sad that a lot of people have lost contact with their family and just had a less than ideal life because their religion requires them to view anything that isn't Christian with disdain. I mean, it's so sad. My whole family views people who are not exactly like them as the problem. Which inherently, it's all women's fault, really. But it's not. But they think so. Religion has done very little to ease the suffering of targeted political groups. Religion has always been political. Religion has always explained away the worst acts of depravity. What's really tragic is that people can live their whole lives thinking that an atheist is the worst kind of person, when in reality, according to what I've discovered, the most mean, unfriendly, hateful people are religious people, mostly Christian. Atheists have always been kind to me, even when I wasn't deconstructing. They're just warm and friendly because they have critical thinking. And I love critical thinking. The amount of cognitive dissonance required to be religious or to be a woman or a gay in this culture is astounding. You wouldn't believe the amount of mental gymnastics required to be a woman in Christianity. Imagine pledging allegiance to a group of people that hate the sight of you, see you as a threat, blame you for everything and everyone's behavior. Any institution, any ideology that makes you afraid of different people, anything that stokes the fires of ignorance, is not a group I ever want to be in or align myself with, because it's not good for me. It's not great for my future. I don't view people who are different as a threat. I view them as a possible learning experience. Anything less than that is a cheap cop-out. I want to be the kind of person that sees difference as a strength, not a threat. What I do see as a threat are groups of religious or secular origin that view anything that isn't them as a threat. And the fear and disdain in Christianity takes years to overcome, even when you leave. It's never